Next one we're going to do is we're going to have the calculator pick which words we should use for us. I think the battery's dying in my remote. There you go. So the steps to using the calculator and telling us random numbers are on the bottom of the second page of the packet from yesterday. So right down here. Okay, so what you would do is, does anyone not have a calculator that's in color? Okay, so older calculators do a little bit different steps. But what you're going to do is you're going to press the math button. It should be under, what color is it on the yellow calculators? Also green? Yeah, I was saying it's right under the green button.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then you press the math button and you arrow over to PROB for probability. And we're wanting random integers, so my fifth choice. Then I am going to make 1 for my lower number because that's telling us that's the smallest number I'm choosing from. And then if I look at this chart, there's 130 words. So my upper is going to be 130. And then N is how many words I want to pick. So how many words were we picking yesterday? 5. So I want to change the N to 5. And then arrow down to paste. Press enter. And it should hopefully give everyone different numbers.
That's what I got. Wait, I also got 1.
So our first one is population. Does anyone know this one already? So like think of, why is it still frozen? Think of like when we're doing a survey, who would the population be?
The people were surveyed.
Yeah, the thing being surveyed. Yeah.
Is it everyone who's going to be surveyed?
A certain amount, a certain group. I don't know what you're surveying.
Okay, so you're kind of on the right track. It's the entire group of individuals or items that we want information about. It's actually not going to end up being everyone who gets surveyed. Okay, so the next word is census. This is data collected from every individual in a population. So an obvious example of this is the U.S. Census that goes on every 10 years. That's why they go door to door and harass people who don't answer. Okay, so my next word is sample, and anything but a census, the sample is the people you end up surveying. So it's a subset of individuals in a population from which we collect data. Okay, so then a sample survey is a survey that collects from the sample I've chosen. So, for example, it's probably not very easy for me to survey this whole school, but it's probably pretty easy for me to go out at lunch and survey the first 100 people I see, right?
Yeah.
So. Hi. So my next word is convenience sampling. Any ideas on what this could be?
Sampling people that are easy.
So how would it be easy to sample someone? So like going back to my survey where I was going out to lunch and surveying people, a convenience sampling would be just the first 100 people I see in the cafeteria. Why would the first 100 people I see in the cafeteria not be entirely representative of the school? Well,
You don't really care who you ask, just 100 people.
well, where are these 100 people? And who typically doesn't eat in the cafeteria? Well, if I'm specifically looking at students, seniors. So I might be missing a lot of seniors because I'm choosing to go in the cafeteria and seniors are allowed to leave.
I think it's all learning from what lunch they do, you know? Okay, so what is bias? You have a favorite opinion.
I have a favorite opinion? Guys, are you talking to me or each other? Okay.
Way controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Just after yesterday.
Another example of bias. So, going back to my lunch example, if I am going around asking people their opinion of the school's food, but I'm only asking people who brought their own lunch, they're probably pretty biased because they're bringing their own lunch already, and I can see that. And I'm specifically picking them. Okay? So, also I can do it with questions too. Another thing I can do is, like, if I go up to students, I'm like, what do you think is a terrible lunch here? I'm kind of like tricking them into how to think. So this one is using a method or questions. That favor certain outcomes over others. Okay, so voluntary response sampling. What do you think this means? Okay, it is people choosing to answer the survey. So where would I see examples of this in the real world?
YouTube news websites and stuff where it's like asking for surveys.
Okay, so on the internet, where it asks you to fill out a survey, why? This is a type of bias. Why would this be bias?
Certain people who connect to the sample, like the sample we actually do it.
So, yeah. So if it's something where like I'm getting paid to do the survey, but I have to opt in myself, that's a bias because obviously I'm doing it for the money, not for whatever the survey's really for. If it's like a news and it's like, how do you feel about mask mandates? And I'm reading this, it's like in the middle of an article talking about mask mandates. Obviously I have an opinion because I'm like reading it, so kind of biased there. Okay, does anyone still need this up, or can I move on to the backside? Okay, so what is the difference between a population and a sample? So which one is the whole?
Population.
Okay.
And the sample is the part of it.
So a population is the entire group. While the sample is a smaller portion representative of it. Okay, so what's the problem with convenience samples? They're not accurate? Why? So, if I'm going back to my example of, I spelled that wrong, of the lunch survey, how could I do that better so I wouldn't run into that issue? How could I choose to ask my student or the students?
The survey on, they always say like, the survey on Canvas we need you guys to fill out.
Okay. But wouldn't that be voluntary response bias now?
But they make it mandatory.
How can I make it mandatory?
You say it's mandatory.
I just say it's mandatory?
Get Tom's brain and say.
No,
Yeah,
they could-
so-
they could receive prizes and then that makes them.
That still leads to voluntary response. So, Autumn was right. Tell the teachers to give it in each of their classes. So like if I pick an hour and I'm like, okay, everyone needs to give this in their second hour, that would probably be a better idea than trying to track people down at lunch. So in the example at lunch, when I was asking people in the cafeteria, I was probably missing seniors, so I'm underrepresenting everyone in the school. Okay, so do you guys think voluntary response is a good way to get a sample?
I think
Why? They wanted to, but couldn't that change their opinions because they want to do it? So like, for example, if I'm going back to my lunch survey and I want to know the quality of the food here, people choosing to respond are going to have a pretty strong opinion. But what about the people who think the food is okay and they can deal with it every day? Are they going to choose to do it?
There's no incentive to do it, and the incentive that leads to it only affects you.
Yeah. So either you would really love the food or you're really going to hate the food, but there's no reason for you if you're like in the middle to
And then if you have
respond.
the incentive of like a prize, you know, that's when you see the data.
Because then you're not really doing it about the food. Yep. No, I don't want to write that there. So yesterday at about 5, I sent out an email asking you to respond to a survey question about whether or not you check your email every day. Was this a good survey? Why not?
Because it literally shows if you check your email because you're responding to the email.
Okay. But I sent it at 5 o'clock yesterday.
I saw it.
We were supposed to respond to that?
Yeah. If you saw it.
I did.
I'm not one.
Nobody saw it.
There's no more.
So I only had 10 people respond. Does that mean only 10 people check their email every day?
No.
Why?
Logan saw it and chose not.
Okay, it was voluntary. So there's some people who chose not to respond even though they did see it.
I saw it on my phone as soon as you sent it because I get my emails on my phone. So I saw it and then I forgot to respond until like an hour ago.
I responded this morning at like 8:40.
Forgot to respond.
I cleared it.
And on top of that, I didn't even give you guys 24 hours to respond, right? So, pretty bad survey. It was just to talk about. So, my last thing on the notes is to estimate the proportion of families that support budget cuts to the athletic department. The principal surveys families as they enter the football stadium on a Friday night. Explain how this plan will result in bias and how this will affect the estimated proportion. So what's wrong with this plan? Well, that's wrong?
No, at a sports event.
Okay.
So it's biased.
They're trying to see how many people, the people are surveying all the family members at sports. They're not going to let it be funded.
Does someone who not like sports go to the sports?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one is biased, right?
Sure.
So, what do you want me to write on the paper?
No.
Okay. But how does it lead to bias?
Because if they're at a football game, that means they like sports. So why would they want there to be no money for sports?
Okay. So how would this change if I asked the entire, like, all of the families in the school instead of just the ones at the football game?
More will let it be. Budget cuts, more support budget cuts, but not like.
Okay, so there might be more support for the budget cuts.